Hey everyone, here is a long-awaited update and thank you for waiting. We're going to take a broad swipe today and even take a look into next year as well because I think it's going to be so pivotal. I know many have written and asked when an update would be coming out. I'm immersed in charts as I go along, so eclipses, the world axis, solstices, equinoxes, individual charts of people and events involved. So it's a lot to put together, and it seems to come together when it comes together. I've given up on myself when I throw dates out there for updates because I tend to find rabbit holes on these charts that I need to investigate because there are endless pieces to the puzzle when you're looking at quantum energy. So I believe in divine timing and that the work comes out when it's supposed to. This will be a long update and it's going to be chock full of information beginning to end, especially the second half. So get comfortable and listen to it in parts if you need to. Also, I'm trying desperately to get away from having to censor myself and speak in code, particularly on the YouTube platform. I have a really hard time being anywhere where I have to adapt my ways that are unpalatable. And so we'll try for now not speaking too much in code, with the exception of calling the virus shot the injection. I'm on BitChute at the Uranian Astrologer, and I will keep this YouTube channel up, but I would really love if everyone would go over there and subscribe to me, because that is where I hope to eventually be moving. Also, for those who are on my Facebook page, the Uranian Astrologer, I've been in Facebook jail for the past 5 weeks with a couple more to go. So if you find this information useful, if you could please share it far and wide on Facebook or on any other free speech platform, that would be great. I don't know how much longer they'll keep me up on Facebook, so please subscribe to my BitChute or my YouTube channel so if I post you won't miss an update. To remind everyone, we are working here with the Uranian system of astrology, which is a system of harmonics, frequency, and resonance, from which we can glean through the midpoint structures and planetary pictures pure consciousness. With the State of the Hive updates that I do, we're working through the Aries axis or world axis, which represents the hive, the collective, the whole living planet, and all the inner workings going on at any given moment. So this axis tells us about the information that is being received from the universe for our individual and collective evolution and growth. And so since my last update, which was right before the inauguration, and I need to spend a minute recapping this, I mentioned with the inauguration day chart that there would be reversals, major changes happening, and with the Poseidon Zeus on the world axis that we would begin seeing proof. It was reported through several sources that arrests were planned but foiled at the last moment due to serious bomb threats. But now, looking at these charts and the charts ahead, I can see that that was never the plan. The changes that happen in and around the inauguration set the stage and place for where we are at right now and moving forward, which is the awakening of the collective by showing people the truth. And I think at this point, many of you are aware that this is happening. People are learning the truth through watching the faux administration in action, and they are watching real time this rollback and reversal, or an attempted rollback and reversal, to the old matrix system, the service to self system. If there were arrests, if there were mass arrests at the time of the inauguration, people would have had a hard time accepting it because the whole dark system needs to be seen, and it would have looked like a coup. Trump had to be out of the picture, completely neutral. Many of you also know that the Insurrection Act was declared a few days before the inauguration, which addresses the treasonous rebellion to dismantle the United States. and the Constitution by domestic and foreign agents. And so the act puts the military in place to arrest the perpetrators, protect the constitutional republic, and return it to the people. And so that as of the inauguration day, we now have two ruling governments. We have Biden, who's the faux president of the defunct and dismantled USA Corp., and we have the U.S. military government who are in charge of protecting the constitutional republic. And it is also the military's responsibility and obligation to remove the fraudulent and infiltrated government. And so why isn't this happening? Why aren't we seeing this? Why aren't they just arresting all these people? The military is free and clear to do so. And why don't I think this is going to happen anytime soon? So the answer to that is because Trump, the military, all understand one thing, that the real power is not AI, it's not a virus, it's not a nuclear bomb, it's not the central bank. It is the power of the people, the power of collective consciousness that shapes humanity and the fabric of our reality. Trump knows this. He knows the power lies in the people. Trump is not the savior, and neither is the military, because this is about the people rising up and seeing and becoming aware of what is happening. Because if we were rescued, we would never permanently evolve ourselves. And if we think someone's going to come and fix our problems, we may be in for a rude awakening. So it's not by coincidence that we have begun this nation's Pluto return. That is Pluto's return to its natal place in the chart of the United States after 245 years, which is the culmination of an evolutionary cycle and the beginning of a new one in this nation. And this period of transmutation is going to be over the next 2.5 years. And so it forces an awareness. It exhumes all of these issues around power, individual and collective, that have to be confronted. They're right in front of our faces now. The censoring, rigged financial markets, the overreaches of power by politicians, the lies and propaganda of the media, the attack on Second Amendment rights, and what will be most critical, which is the poisoning and hurting and culling of humanity through injections. And I believe that it will be this issue that will be the game changer. And I'll get into that in a bit. So these things are all coming up for inspection so that they can be eliminated and evolution can take place. Or should I say that evolution is happening and we watch the old system fall away. So when you realize just how infiltrated it all is, just how much a part of the fabric of our reality the system is and has become, then you realize why one man or one military does not save us. We do. Again, they lead and assist, and it's in Trump's ability to lead, his Promethean vision, his intuition, his ability to work with unseen energies, and his desire to be of service to humanity that makes him the biblical leader that he is. So we are the ones that change the fabric of our reality, and this will happen alongside Pluto's return to its natal place, which is why this situation cannot be one and done. In other words, arrests could never have happened, nor will they happen in the future without the knowing, understanding, and backing from a great majority of the population. The military and Trump are waiting to assist, not force a change. So we're making this choice between a transhuman existence, AI control, the intrusion of our bodies by poisons, the loss of our sovereignty, forced dependency by government, or do we forge a new earth and begin to tap into our individual power, and a new paradigm where we are free and have the time and resources to develop our God-given multidimensional capacities, and where our environment and our government are of integrity, goodness, godness, and light. Only good stuff coming in, because that is where this revolution and evolution is taking us. And there is perhaps no symbol that is more prescient of this at this time than Brumidi's fresco in the dome of the Capitol, the apotheosis, and William Henry's depiction of the symbolism here. And I'm aware that there are a lot of people out there that are like, DC is the Masonic, Luciferian symbology, and there's all this geometry around there. But Henry offers another view that I think is so in line with the soul path of the birth chart of this nation. The apotheosis, the title, means to deify. It means to raise man up to godlike status, to make him one of the gods. Now, the dome of the Capitol, as Henry puts it, represents the dome of our head. The gold dot in the center of the rotunda floor represents the pineal gland. And directly above head, if you're standing at that gold dot, you have George Washington going through a stargate. So you have a gate of 72 stars with the founding father, George Washington, sitting on a rainbow, surrounded by celestial beings, just like Jesus enthroned on the rainbow with celestial beings around him. And that is what the dome of the Capitol of this nation clearly suggests, that George Washington was this ascended being, and he's gone through the Stargate, and now he's equal to Christ. And so this is Henry's depiction of the Capitol, and it's because that's something that's really controversial to hear, that somehow George Washington was like Christ. And Henry talks about how it opens up this whole idea of what our founding fathers had in mind in our quest for liberty. That liberty was not just freedom to move around as you please, but the ability for people to come to a physical place as well as a psychological place where enlightenment can be attained. That you come here to potentiate your soul, to bring out your godness, your goodness, and your light, to become godlike. It's not saying that George Washington is the God. It is saying that this process is of the highest order and meaning as a nation, and that we are all gods here on the journey. This is what the nation's Pluto return is all about, to reclaim our God-given power and authority and to potentiate our own lives so that we can go out and potentiate in the world. And so people might ask, well, how is this the entire planet's transmutation if it's the nation's Pluto return? So it's the transmutation of the nation's identity, but it's really a transmutation of the world for a few different reasons. Yes, this is a time that all of the religions, prophets, seers have spoken about. It's ascension, it's this change of frequency, but from the astrological and Uranian perspective, we can see this in a few different ways. So this nation's natal Pluto and its location, its natal location of 2732 of Capricorn, will form a very strong midpoint structure with Admetos on the world axis, particularly this April, May, and June, before it retrogrades out of that, energetic connection and comes back for the exact conjunction February and March of 2022, and really much of 2022. And so the Pluto Admetos are the deepest of transformations. It's fundamental change in the collective from the ground up. It's changing conditions going on in the world that are affecting all of us. And on one hand, it can be changing conditions due to the perseverance of the dark energies, the coercion, the manipulation, the forced dependency. And on another hand, it represents this beginning of this subterranean movement and growth of the awakened, and this change in consciousness. And so this whole metamorphosis is 100% contingent on the people uniting in solidarity against the old system, and why, in the next 3 years, the fabric of our reality will begin to change. Governments all over the world, entire governments, economic systems, political parties, methods of government, laws and legislations. And still yet, there's a large segment of the population still asleep, and they've willingly stayed asleep with whatever truth has been shown them. Because on a subconscious level, to believe it, to give it any credence, strikes at a very primal chord. It means everything you've known in the world to be is false. So that is a choice to stay in the illusion. And so the intensity and the magnitude of what is going to have to happen to awaken people is deep. So how does this happen? How do people wake up? What kind of event or situation unifies the collective at a soul level to such a degree that it affects everyone and forces this consciousness shift, and therefore a shift in our reality construct? And here we are seeing that it is not enough just to be shown. And so Pluto is going to use whatever it can to create a situation that strikes at everyone's root vulnerabilities around survival. And I mean everyone. Because as a global consciousness, it is the price that we pay when we acquiesce our power and allow for blind allegiance and codependence on external authority to take over our consciousness. And I believe in the coming months and years that the fallout from the injections will single-handedly be the situation that awakens and unifies the hive. I still do think that eventually they'll be stopped and won't work out, because by the time they're out of experimental stage in 2023 and for approval with the FDA, will be well into the Pluto return, and there are already too many people awake to the horror of the situation. But not before the situation does what it seems karmically set out to do, which is awaken the hive. Because there is going to be tremendous death and illness, and because there are so many ways people will get sick and die. There's autoimmune illnesses, accelerated cancer, Alzheimer's, the list is endless, and people may not connect the dots initially, but they will connect the dots. So people will see this. This is a wound. It's genocide, and perhaps the greatest of crimes against humanity. It's the real health crisis, and it's a situation where every person on earth will be directly affected, either having taken the shot or having family and friends who have died or are struggling with illness. And I'm especially concerned about this situation as we move into the fall equinox, because we have this Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune situation, which means many things, but one of the things it could indicate here is illness and the spreading of disease. I also think by that time we'll be seeing the disease government and leaders as well, because the Saturn, Neptune in this structure, with it, we're pulling in the Chronos. So it's like we're dealing with this infection of government. So when I think about the Pluto Admetos, the Pluto return, I also think about soul stamina, deep perseverance, because everyone needs to prepare here for the long haul and realize that it's a huge navigational error to believe that the arrests will just be made and everything will be great, because this is a revolution. It's an evolution, and the change is not outside of us, but is being created by us.